when you talk about, emotion, I think that's another thing that I didn't mention, but I think women are very naturally good at is storytelling. For women who are already in sales, I really coach them to try to get in touch with their authentic self. And so I have to go through an education process to show them that is not the truth and start breaking down some of those myths that are barriers of why women don't go into sales.
I also then want to flip it to the flip side of for, male-led teams and male leaders in the industry, what they can and should be doing to better support women in the industry. Because I agree, and I'm on record saying this, that women are better at sales than men for a lot of the reasons that you've listed. Tend to be better listeners, tend to be more empathetic. My personal favorite is they also tend to use more descriptive language.
Truth.
Emotion. We all know this is hilarious, right? We know people make decisions emotionally. Descriptive language triggers emotion better, right? Whereas males tend to be more 0-1 versus descriptive language. Getting into the emotion behind the sales, I also think is very important here. So let's go down the path of to the women that are in sales right now or considering, how do they lean in? How do they lean into some of these things, the listening, the empathy, the understanding, how do they lean into that more and really own that versus trying to evolve into something that they are not and should not be?
Yeah, I love that. Those are great questions. And when you talk about, emotion, I think that's another thing that I didn't mention, but I think women are very naturally good at is storytelling, right? And so, I think when you base your approach on telling stories, it does trigger that emotion, and that results in a much stronger connection, right? And listen, at the end of the day, we're in the people business and we're about connecting. So that is really important. I'll take it in two routes because girls. So there's women who are already in sales, right? And then there are women who are not even aware that sales is a viable career option for them. So let me tackle the first thing first. For women who are already in sales, I really, when I mentor them, I really coach them to try to get in touch with their authentic self. So what is it that is their superpower? And an exercise that I take women through a lot as I'm coaching them or mentoring them is to begin unpacking or taking a look at some of the pivotal moments in your life. And they can be big, massive, big decision moments of, do I keep dating the guy that I'm dating, or do I break up with him and marry this other person or whatever, right? Like big moments, or a death in the family, or, there's big things that happen. And at those transformational moments and crossroads in your life, you make decisions, right? And then there's micro moments along the way, right? That have an impact, and beginning to take a look at what decisions that you made at those moments and how do you leverage that as your superpower. So, I'll give you an example, right? For me, when I was 12, so I grew up in a family where, we didn't talk about our emotions very much, right? And it was a time, think about the late 1950s, early 1960s, when I was, 12 years old, and moms and dads didn't argue in front of their children, right? They argued behind closed doors. And this was an evening where my mother and father got in a huge fight. And it woke me up, and I was sitting in front of their bedroom door, listening to them argue. And my dad subsequently walked out of the door and looked at me and said, "I just can't take it anymore. I am out of here, right? I am out. Goodbye," and left. And my mom looked at me and said, Heidi, I just want to tell you, if you learn one thing, never rely 100% on a man and always have your own money. And she went in and slammed her door. Now I'm 12, right?
That's
And I'm
heavy.
like,
That's heavy.
what do I do with this? So it's probably no surprise that I entered into a career where I could have financial independence. It's probably no surprise that I married a man that ended up being a stay at home dad, and I was the primary breadwinner. And it's probably no surprise that I now run a company that teaches women how to have financial independence, right? So that's an example of pivotal moments. But how did that serve me, right? Because some of these things, and maybe I went down into a completely different rabbit hole and didn't answer your question. But when I talk to women, I try to have them get in touch with some of these moments and what is serving them well and what is not serving them well. Because sometimes your superpower can also be your biggest detriment, right? I'm really good at process, but sometimes I'm too process oriented and I don't have the ability to think out of the box. That's an example. So it's like it's your superpower. And then how do you utilize that and leverage that as a part of the sales process so that you can be successful? So those are some of the things that I help coach women with. And whenever I hear, I feel like I have to be more like a man, or I see women making those decisions, I really try to guide them and lead them down, getting in touch with their femininity and their innate skills as a female. So that sort of answered the question one. Then there's, okay, working with, like at Girls Who Sell, we work with mostly college age young women now, but also high school women. And we've even started getting younger, KD. So even positioning sales, with 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds, because they're not even aware that sales is a viable career alternative for them. And what I hear a lot from these young women is, one, sales is awful. It's icky. You have to, all you do is spend your time, selling people things that they don't need. And so I have to go through an education process to show them that that is not the truth, and start breaking down some of those myths that are barriers of why women don't go into sales, right? So that's the first thing. But then the second thing I hear is, okay, well, maybe sales is cool, but I don't have the personality for it. And so I ask them, what does that look like for you? Like, what does that mean? What personality do you think you need to have in sales to be successful? And then I take them through, we have a personality archetype uh, quiz in our Girls Who Sell Academy that helps them frame that, and to turn it. They're like, well, I'm shy, or I'm introverted, or I'm analytic. And I'm like, yes, you are. And
Yes.
guess what? That is your superpower. That is exactly why you're going to be successful in sales. And there are so many different directions that you can take your sales career and leverage that, to be successful.